At the man's words, Lee Hyun's temples throbbed with rage. Absurd. The money my father borrowed was clearly 100 million won. Hey, it's been 8 years. As time goes by, interest piles up. Such a ridiculous thing. I'll report it to the police. Report? Knock yourself out. You think the police will take your side? Police are the people's cane. The men laughed at Lee Hyun's words. Hearing that absurdity, the blonde-haired man put his hand on his forehead and laughed. The man standing quietly behind spoke. Considering the atmosphere, he seemed like their leader. Explain to the kid straight up. Do not cause unnecessary trouble. Yes, Hyun-nim, I'm sorry. Well, kid, listen carefully. What we are doing does not break any laws, because we received legitimate interest. To begin with, the interest is 50% of the principal amount per year. Do you want me to spell it out for you? Year 1, it increased from 100 million to 150 million. Year 2, roughly 220 million. Year 3, topped 330 million. Year 4, close to almost 500 million. At the calculation report, Lee Hyun felt despair. The debt increased 5-fold in just 4 years. 8 years passed, so it might have been 2.5 billion, but the time that passed was more than exactly 8 years, so it was not wrong to say 3 billion. Lee Hyun, while being harassed by the gang members, did not know how much debt he was in. Without him knowing, it accumulated to as much as 3 billion. Bankruptcy. Others with a 3 billion won debt would file for bankruptcy. Even after bankruptcy, you would owe a few thousand won. Lee Hyun did not even consider bankruptcy. It costs money just to file for bankruptcy. The courts and legal counselors. Paying them money and following the necessary steps, you could enter bankruptcy. Lee Hyun could not even afford to file for bankruptcy. In fact, even if you had the money, you can't seriously believe the vicious loan sharks would leave you alone to file bankruptcy. We want 3 billion. No way. No way. Suit yourself. If you don't want to, we will come again tomorrow to collect. At that time, what you have to pay back will increase a little more, but that's your call. The men dressed in black suits exuded confidence. The confidence of free will, the confidence of power. Lee Hyun also knew it was better to repay the debt if he could. In the first place, there were no other alternatives. They came knowing he had money. The men laughed with a smirk. Poor grandma has been injured and hospitalized, but she sure looks comfortable in the hospital, much like your little sister in the hallway. Such a beautiful little sister. I bet she could be sold for quite a bit on the island. Don't you dare touch Hyun. Relax, nothing has happened yet. Right now, we're just talking kid. But what if this family of 3 was admitted to the hospital simultaneously? It'd be the most touching sight. Lee Hyun could not stand the veiled threats anymore. It couldn't be helped. It would be enough if the men left. Those unable to repay borrowed money in the slums did not have a pleasant fate. If sin existed in the first place, it was the act of borrowing money from loan sharks. Not even able to depend on the law, Lee Hyun had to surrender his bank book. The men received the bank book on the spot and pulled out 90 million won in cash from a bag. With it was the IOU for 100 million won, written by Lee Hyun's parents 8 years ago. From the beginning, they knew everything and came firmly prepared. Thank you, and sorry for your troubles. As the men exited the hospital room, Lee Hyun yelled, "Wait a minute! Why, kid, what's up? Someday I will surely make you pay for this." What? Just because the money has been paid, you think this is the end? It just means I will get even with you guys later. The men were about to laugh again. However, at the sight of Lee Hyun's eyes, their laughter died before ever coming out. A young wild beast. The miasmic embrace of his eyes sent a chill down their spines. I see you still have some spirit in you. We need to teach a fearless kid like you about the world. The men rolled up their sleeves, but Lee Hyun was not scared, nor did he shrink back. Enough. We have already collected the money. Don't do anything unnecessary. But, do you really want to make a scene in a hospital? Understood, Hyun-nim. The men started to leave. And kid. The casual leader of the men looked at Lee Hyun and spoke. I am Han Jinsuk of Myeongdong. Will your boldness work in this poisonous world? If you think it's unfair, make 3 billion in 5 years and look for me. Then I will serve you as my Hyun-nim. The loan sharks left. Lee Hyun sat down on the ground helplessly, and at the sound of his little sister crying in the hallway, his grandma broke into a sigh. To be continued.